Hey there, welcome to Mike's Collection, episode 164. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today is some brand new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Ultimates figures from Super 7. So, if you're not familiar with Super 7's Ultimates Turtles figures, basically what they are is they are making bigger, better versions of the Ninja Turtle figures that we had when we were kids. So they have thus far delivered 4 waves of Ultimates figures. They started coming out, I think, in 2020 is when we got our first wave. And then wave 2 and 3 came out in 2021. And wave 4 started hitting shelves at the very end of 2021. So like December, I'm just getting these figures now. I'm in Canada, so sometimes they arrive a little bit late. So they're taking the old Playmates figures from the 80s, which were about 5 inches, and they didn't have a whole lot of articulation, and they're blowing them up. Now these figures are like 7 inches. They've got way more articulation with joints at the knees and the elbows and the wrist. They've got more better paint applications. Their weapons are all painted, which they weren't before. They've got alternate heads. There's just a lot of going on here. They've got a whole bunch of extra accessories. I really love these figures. They're very expensive, but they're very cool. So I have not gone all in on the Ninja Turtle Ultimates. I am being a little choosy. And I expect going forward I'll probably get a lot fewer of them. Because Ninja Turtles came around kind of late in my toy collecting career as a kid. I was much more into 80s toys like G.I. Joe and Transformers and He-Man, kind of the early 80s. So Turtles kind of came in really around the late 80s, right around the time I was kind of phasing out of collecting toys. So my nostalgic ties to them are pretty limited to the first couple waves of figures. So when it came to like later releases, I just don't have that same attachment. And Super 7 is kind of remaking the figures, not in the exact order as Playmates released them, but they're starting with a lot of the main characters, obviously. And as they get into some more obscure characters or characters like Donatello in different outfits, which was pretty common in the Playmates toy line, they would put Donatello in a trench coat or Michelangelo in a space suit or something. So Super 7 is starting to do those figures, and I'm not really interested in those. So anyway, for Series 1, which consisted of Splinter, the Foot Soldier, Raphael, and Baxter Stockman, I only bought Raphael from that Wave 1 set, and then I later bought a special limited edition glow-in-the-dark Baxter Stockman, but not the original painted one from Wave 1. And then when Wave 2 came along, that had 3 characters I really wanted. It had Leonardo, it had Bebop, and it had Mutagen Man, and there was also Shredder. So Shredder wasn't necessarily a must-have for me, but I thought, what the hell, I'll just pre-order that whole wave. So I got all of Wave 2. When it came to Wave 3, I only got 2 characters. I got Michelangelo and Rocksteady. So I passed on April O'Neil and Metalhead, I think were the other 2 figures. And then when it comes to Wave 4, it was Donatello, Muckman, Mondo Gecko, and Casey Jones. And I pre-ordered 3 of them. I passed on Casey Jones. So Donatello arrived in the mail kind of late 2021, maybe even the first week of 2022, and I've already reviewed him. I posted a video a little while ago of my first new figures of 2022, and I talked about this guy. I won't bother covering him again. So the other figures that I ordered from Wave 4 have now arrived, so I'm going to cover them, but I also have one other bonus figure to talk about. So first up, we've got Mutagen Man. So as I mentioned earlier, Mutagen Man came out in Wave 2, and so I've had the original Mutagen Man figure for quite some time, and I actually named it my favorite figure of 2021. I thought it was fantastic. So late in 2021, it was announced that they were going to do a glow-in-the-dark repaint. It was exclusive to the website Entertainment Earth, and I thought, you know what, these figures are pretty expensive. I don't know if I really want to pay to just get a repainted version of a figure I already have, but at the time when this first went up for pre-order, I hadn't done my top 10 of 2021 yet, and when I put that list together, I was kind of surprised myself that Mutagen Man came out on top, and I just really love that figure, and I thought, well, how can I not get this repaint? If it's my favorite figure of the year out of the hundreds of figures I got last year, I think I got to buy the repaint. So my birthday is actually in January, and my wife ordered me this for my birthday, so that was pretty great. So It's the same figure as I had previously, and that I named Figure of the Year for 2021. But it comes in a nice spiffy new box. Most of the villains in the Ultimate Wave come in, I think it's purple boxes. The heroes come in green boxes. So with this Mutagen Man, it comes in this really nice pink box. You see it's got the exclusive to Entertainment Earth sticker there in the corner. You've got Mutagen Man's face in there. And on the back, you've got the Ninja Turtles logo. And you probably can't tell, but this paint here, it's got a bit of a texture to it, and it glows in the dark. So that's super cool. So if I turned at the lights right now, yeah, you would just see this splotch and the oozy drip around the name of Ninja Turtles. Now, to be honest, even though I just took this out of the mailer box, and now you see it here, if I slide this off, you'll see the figure's already been removed. Because my birthday was a couple of weeks ago, so I tore into this guy pretty quick when I got him. So we'll take a look at him outside the box in a moment. But these other two figures, the other two I ordered from Wave 4, they just came in the mail, and I have not opened these yet. So this is going to be a live unboxing. So this is Muckman and his sidekick Joe Eyeball. So you slide him out of the mailer box. Then you get the heroic green packaging here. So you can see there Muckman, Joe Eyeball. You've got his face in the manhole, and you've also got Joe Eyeball there on the edges, which is kind of cool. Flip around the back. You've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles logo. And this is a big box. This is a heavy figure. These boxes all look like they're kind of the same, but you can see, I think, that the green one is quite a bit thicker. And Mutagen Man himself was already a big figure, so the fact that this one's quite a bit wider, it speaks to the size that Muckman is going to be. So we slide this off, and there is Muckman in all his glory. So just as his name describes, Muckman is kind of a man made of muck. He's kind of like the Swamp Thing or the Man Thing. He's got a lot of like kind of vegetation and kind of just garbage that made him up. I think he was a garbage man that got mutated, if memory serves. There's a little bit of a write-up on the back that gives you a little bit of background on Muckman and Joe Eyeball. Now, I actually did not have this figure when I was a kid from Playmates, but I know he wasn't this big for sure, and I think Joe Eyeball was just he was just kind of like a smaller accessory. I don't think he was painted at all. I think he was just solid green. So I think we're going to get a lot more detail out of him in this figure here, but we'll get a better look at him once we open him up in a second. So anyway, yeah, very cool figure. Love the packaging on these things. As I get more and more of these Ultimates, I don't know what I'm going to do with the packaging because it just looks so nice. I just don't want to throw it out. But they do take up a lot of room, and I don't really have the space for them. So undecided. But so far, I still have all of my Ultimate packaging. And by the way, Super 7 does Ultimates for multiple lines. So I have like some Conan figures, some Thundercats. All the boxes are very similar in style. And coming up this year, they're going to have some Transformers and G.I. Joe Ultimates. And I'm getting those. I have most of those on pre-order. So again, I'm going to end up with more boxes than I know what to do with. And I'm probably going to have to get rid of them. But anyway, we pull out the Mondo Gecko mailer box there. And now we've got Mondo Gecko on the front. On the little sides of the manhole, you can see little skateboard wheels. So this is the Skateboarding Gecko from Ninja Turtles. This guy was a favorite of mine because I was a skateboarder when I was young. So we slide this off. And there is Mondo Gecko in all his glory. So you see there he's got his skateboard. Looks very much like the one I remember from my childhood. He's got two heads, which is kind of nice. So he's got like an open mouth one with his tongue out. And then kind of just a smiling face there. We can see the braces on his teeth. And lots of accessories. These Ultimate figures come with lots of accessories, usually multiple hands, lots of little weapons and accessories and stuff like that. So very cool. I'm very excited to open these guys up. So yeah, I'll show you what these guys look like outside of the box, and we'll also take a look at the brand new glow-in-the-dark Mutagen Man. So let's first take a look at Mutagen Man. So this is a great figure with a ton of cool sculpted detail. So you see here, he's got all these kind of like little armored bits here, and then his flesh is rotting away. You can see the muscle tissue exposed underneath the skin. Again, lots of cool little sculpting in the armor. Lots of details on the back here with these hoses and gas tanks and dials. So just great detail on this guy. And then inside, there's some really great sculpted detail in there as well. So you can see he's got a brain and then a little skull with these big eyeballs kind of bugging out of it. And then he's got all these organs. You can see like his intestines and his like lungs. And they're all just kind of floating around loose in there. So that's all pretty gross. Now, I don't think it looks quite as gross on this particular figure because of the new glow-in-the-dark color scheme, which I love. I love this gold paint, this metallic green. It's got a really nice shine to it. Very cool. But why don't I bring out the other version just so you can see how different they are. So this is the original release from Wave 2. So you can see it's the exact same figure. They haven't changed anything about the sculpt. But I think this one's a little grosser because you can see the guts and the organs much more clearly. The skin tone is much more real, like skin tone, and the musculature is much more realistically colored as well. So yeah, he just looks kind of gross. So yeah, I absolutely love this figure. He's just so big and interesting looking. So yeah, how could I not get this, I don't know, equally cool version? I like it a lot. I really like the colors. I like the glow effect that it has. The one problem I guess I have with this figure is the same one that I had with this one, in that the vintage figure, which I don't have, but I'll pop a picture of it up here and you can see what it looks like. You know, it looks very much like the original Wave 2 figure here, just upsized and more detail. But you were able to fill that figure with water, and so this tank would fill up, and then you could put little plastic accessories inside of them there, and they would float around inside of them. Now this figure is not watertight, so you can't do that. I kind of wish maybe they had made that change for this figure. And to be 100% honest, maybe they did. I haven't tested it. I didn't test either of it myself, but when this figure first came out, I had seen other reviewers attempt to fill him with water, and it just all ran out of his legs and stuff. So since the tooling appears to be the exact same, I don't expect that they made that change for the glow-in-the-dark version, but that would have been cool if they had. So I have that same gripe for both figures. You know, the little thing on the top here even opens up, which kind of makes it seem like you could do that. So yeah, he's got that little hole there that you can plug it up. So yeah, you'd think you could fill him with water, so it's kind of weird that it doesn't. Now, the only additional complaint I have about this figure that I don't have with this guy is the clear glass they used here for him. I'm not sure why it seems so foggy. So like you can see when you look at that little skull, how crisp it is on this figure. Like that clear glass is very clear. But here, it just seems like kind of foggy, and I don't know if that's intentional. It's just very hard to kind of see through all the details. So that's kind of a weird choice, and I'm not sure what that's all about. But not a huge deal. Like you can still see through it, and if you really want to see the details on that guy, you can just take a look at this figure. Now, as far as accessories go, he doesn't have a whole lot. He's got the same gun that you see this guy had. So there was some painted detail. There were some gold paint apps on the yellow gun here. There's no paint apps on this gun. It's just a solid glow-in-the-dark green. The other accessories are the same as well. So this guy had some alternate hands. So does this guy. So you see here I've got some closed fists. So you can interchange those if you want. Right now I have him both with open hands so he can hold his weapons. And just like the vintage Ninja Turtle figures, Super 7 gives you all the accessories on a little sprig like this. So you would have to punch these accessories out. But what they do with all of their Ultimate Ninja Turtle figures is they give you the little sprue here with all the little accessories. So you see here there's like a little turtle, a slice of pizza, a fish, a wrench, a bone. That's an apple core. And that I think is an eyeball. So, you know, it's kind of cool that you get this like piping looking thing here, but that's really just meant to, you kind of punch these things out and you would throw the frame. But with the Ultimates, you get the ones in the little sprig, but then you also get all the same things loose. So I have the fish, the wrench, and they're all just stuck on a piece of tape here. I I don't know what I'm going to do with these things, but you can see they're glow in the dark. So are these, but it's a different glow in the dark plastic they used, which is kind of interesting. But this is the thing that's kind of a bummer with this figure. So these same little accessories came with this guy. And you would think if you could fill him with water, you would put these little apple cores and a little turtle inside of him and they would float around. So the fact that you can't put water in there, you could put these little accessories inside the hole on the top, but then they would just rattle around at the bottom and it would probably be very difficult to ever get them out again. So I'm not going to put them in there. I'm not sure if that was Super 7's intent or not, but ultimately they end up being just kind of useless and they're just going to go in my spare parts bin. So anyway, that is Mutagen Man. I guess before I move on, I don't have the vintage figure, but I do have one other Mutagen Man figure. This is from the 2012 line. And even though this was kind of a different look for the character, I still thought it was pretty cool. So he's still just a lump of guts inside of a jar. And you could lift this out. And then you can see his guts just hanging from the lid of this thing. And on this figure, you actually could fill it with water. This guy is watertight. And for a long time, I did have it displayed with water in there. And then he's also got these big oozy limbs. So his legs and his arms are just ooze. These figures were pretty simple. There wasn't a whole lot of articulation on them, not a whole lot of painted detail. And I didn't buy very many Ninja Turtle figures from the 2012 series, but I did pick up Mutagen Man because he's always been a favorite of mine. And I think he's really cool. And I like this new glow-in-the-dark Super 7 version quite a lot. Now, I was about to move on to the next figure, but then I realized I should probably show you his glow-in-the-dark feature in action. So let's flick off the lights and see how well he glows. And so there he is, with the full glow effect. So you can see that not only do his limbs and his guns glow, but so do the guts inside. Now, really, it's only the brain, the skulls, and the eyeball that seem to be picking up much light. It looks pretty dark on his torso on camera here. But where I have it live in front of me, I can see that the rest of his internal guts are glowing a little bit. And you can also see how his accessories glow, both the stuff that was on the sprig here, as well as all the little loose apple cores and bits like that too. So they all glow, even though they were different color glow-in-the-dark plastic. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. So next up, we'll take a look at Mondo Gecko. And I'll be honest, my first impression of this figure when I took him out of the package is that he seemed a little small. Now, maybe it's because I was just handling Mutagen Man and Muckman, but even as far as the other Ultimate figures go, Mondo Gecko seemed a little petite. And I never really saw the character as being particularly small, but perhaps he's supposed to be. Like, for example, if I bring in Donatello here, so if I take Mondo off of his skateboard, so you see he's got some holes on his feet, but you stand him next to Donatello there and he's kind of short. So considering how expensive these figures are, like these figures, I think they've gone up a little bit each wave. I think these figures here I paid about $55 American, and so when you convert that to Canadian, that's getting close to like $70 a figure or something. And this guy just, my first impression is he does not feel like a $70 figure. He just seems a little small to me. But I don't think it's a bad figure. I still think he's pretty cool. So it looks a lot like the figure I had as a kid. Like when I hold this thing in my hand, I'm like, this almost seems exactly like the figure I had when I was a kid. Like more so than the Ninja Turtles and the other characters. But it wasn't until I went and dug out my vintage Mondo Gecko and compared them that I saw, no, you know what, this guy really is substantially better. He's new and improved, just like all these Ultimate figures are. So, yeah, you can see there's a ton of cool sculpted detail, like with his skin. He's got the braces on his teeth there. The tongue hanging out, the way his hair kind of flops around the front. That's like soft plastic. He's also got some hair poking out the back of his little hat here. The skull and crossbones logo that's kind of painted right on his shirt. You see he's got some nice sculpted detail there on the waistband of his shorts there. He's got down some spiky bits to him, like this knee pad is a little spiky, and these spikes on his arms are pretty sharp too, so you want to be careful around those. He's got the little roller skate wrapped around his tail, which is pretty cool. That's right out of the vintage figure. And then his sneakers, they've got some nice painted accessories or painted apps as well. So he's Not just a black sneaker with a red sole, but he's also got the little silver bits painted around the shoelace, and even the shoelace is a different shade of gray. So lots of nice little detail there. Very cool. And as far as the skateboard goes, again, it looks very much like the skateboard I remember, with that flaming skull logo with the crossbones, and then it's got these weird like thrusters on the back. So some futuristic type skateboard. Now if I bring out my vintage Mondo Gecko, you see how similar he is, but it's a little less detailed, a little less articulated. So the skateboard, for example, so he fits on there the same way. But the board itself, so it's a lot smaller. The graphics are very similar though. There's no paint apps or anything on the back end of this here. There are some paint apps here. It's subtle, but you can see there are different colors. There's like metallic blue painted over the matte blue plastic. The wheels, I like the way these ones work a little bit better and how they look, as opposed to this with the big, just thick red plastic with no paint apps on the wheels. So yeah, the skateboard here looks a lot better, I think. As far as the painted details, you see the skull and crossbones. It's still on there, but it's a sticker and it's starting to peel off. You see his he doesn't have any blue paint apps on his belly like the way the new one does. Still pretty good paint apps on the braces and around the eyes and all that stuff. But you'll notice like the roller skate here, there's very little painted detail. This was common on a lot of old Ninja Turtle figures. There'd be sculpted detail there, but it would get kind of lost because they wouldn't paint them. Same as his sneakers. He's got the black and the red, but he doesn't have the shoelaces painted or the little rivets around the shoelaces. So yeah, pretty solid figure. You can definitely see, you know, how similar these guys are. Like right down to all these little, like, the little blue bits on his skin there, coming out from his sleeves. So they've copied a lot of that detail. His knee pads are the same. One spiky one skull one. So very cool. But when you see them side by side, you do see that the new Mondo Gecko is quite a bit bigger. Now as far as accessories go, so he's got a bunch of extra hands. So there are 6 extra hands. So I currently have him with 2 open hands. That's how he came in the packaging. But he's also got, so closed fist here, and a gripping hand, and then this open hand, which I guess if he's cruising down on a skateboard. And then he's got 3 hands for the other side with the glove. So he's got the fingerless glove, so there's a gripping hand too. So if you wanted to have him hold, he doesn't come with a gun or anything, but if you wanted to hold a gun from somebody else, there's kind of his little like hang 10 hand, and then he's also got an open gloved hand. So that's cool. As far as articulation goes, I've messed around with him just a little bit when I opened him out of the package. He feels a little stiff in places, but you can see there he's got knee joints, which, you know, the old figure never had. He's got a good range of motion on his legs. He's got elbows, he's got wrists. So not only do they like spin side to side, but they also kind of ratchet so they can move around there. He's got a good ball jointed head. Arms move up and down. This elbow's a little stiff. I'm having a bit of a hard time moving that, but I'm sure once I loosen that up, he'll have a good range of motion there on his elbow. Swivel at the waist. So yeah, cool figure. Lots of movement. So the one other thing I have to show you with this guy is his extra head. I'm not sure which one I like better, but this one here, he's got the kind of open mouth. Looks like he's probably tearing down the street, bombing down the hill on a skateboard, and just loving it. So that's a pretty cool head too. I like that one quite a bit. And the heads are usually pretty easy to swap out. I want to be very delicate since I just opened this guy up. Sometimes you need to heat these things up, but let's see if I can get his head off without much issue. Yeah, okay, that pops off. And here we go. So there's the new head with the open mouth. And that's pretty cool. So yeah, solid figure. He's still a little small. It might seem a little hard to justify the price with this guy, but he is a fun character. He's a classic Turtles character. You know, like I said, he was one of my favorites when I was a kid because I was a skateboarder, and yeah, I just kind of always really liked the idea of this skateboarding lizard. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. Mondo Gecko. Now this last figure here, he is a bit of a beast. This guy definitely feels like he's worth $55. And it's kind of odd. I don't necessarily have a problem with Super 7's pricing, but typically in other lines, like let's say Star Wars Black Series, like a standard figure in Canada is like $30, but if you get a deluxe figure, so he comes in like maybe a bigger box, like let's say the Gamorrean Guard, because he's a bigger, thicker character, then they charge you a little bit more. He's $40 or $45. But with Super 7, they're keeping these guys at the same price point. So sure, I paid $55 for him, and he doesn't seem like a whole lot, but then I also paid $55 for him, and I feel like I definitely got some good bang for my buck. Super 7 could maybe change it up and say, well, we'll only charge you $40 for him, but then we'll charge you $65 for him, and I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that. But yeah, I don't know what's the better way to do it, but I'm just saying this guy definitely feels worth the money that I paid for him. He is a big, heavy figure, and he looks really cool. Ton of paint apps. So let's get a closer look at him. So there you see, he's got these kind of gross tentacles coming off of his face, like it's like a beard and mustache made of like octopus tentacles. And he's got this like clothespin on his nose, and he's got this banana, even with the little blue sticker on the top of his head, which is kind of cool. You see on his badge, so Carson Grunge, I think is his name, and he's a New York sanitation worker. So yeah, you'll have to forgive me. It's been so long since I saw the cartoon or anything where this guy, what his origin was, I don't really remember. But yeah, I think he was a sanitation worker that got mutated. Anyway, then he's got like a soda can kind of crushed on his arm here. All kinds of, like, I don't know what all this stuff is necessarily supposed to be, if it's just mold or garbage or sewage. Looks like there's a bug here, another bug here. So these are like flies. They're not really painted all that well. This one's got some nice kind of metallic-y green paint on him, which you would see on a fly, so that's kind of cool. Then it looks like he's got like maybe a centipede or something in him there. More worms and centipedes, spiders or whatever on his legs. Some mushrooms growing out of the side there. He's got like a fish bone there, and he's got a crushed garbage can. He's got a milk carton on his foot. Over here, another soda bottle, pizza slice, some bones, an apple core. Lots of mushrooms growing up on this arm here. More bugs. A little flower, which is nice. On his chest, flower, spider, teddy bear. And then you can see right through him. He's got some kind of gross little veiny bits connecting there. Yeah, just a ton of stuff to look at on this guy. Another little fish skeleton there. Then on the back, he's got this extra garbage can, which is also oozing full of stuff. And there's more cans and pizza and stuff like that. Now this here, you can take off of him. So he's got another plug in his back. And the garbage can just sits in there. And that's how he stores his Buddy Joe eyeball. And again, I don't quite remember his story. This might have been just another sanitation worker, and he seems to have got the worst of it, I think. But yeah, I don't remember for sure. But I think the old Muckman figure from Playmates in the 80s, this guy was just like a solid green thing. He probably didn't have painted eyes or painted teeth or any of that sort of stuff. I could be wrong, but you definitely get a lot of nice detail on him here. His head is actually articulated, so he can spin around a little bit. Even his arms, yeah, I wasn't sure about that until just now, but his arms are articulated, so he can move those around, which is cool. I don't think there's any movement in the eyes. Nope. But still, a really fun little accessory there. The only other accessory he has, so he's got this big cannon. It's also got the same gook, like mushrooms and bugs and stuff crawling all over it. So I don't know what he shoots out of there. It's like an ooze cannon or something. And then he also has some additional hands. So, and those are pretty great looking too. Look at how those fingers are all like webbed together with gook. Very cool stuff. And this hand, it's almost hard to make out because there's so much ooze and slime connecting all the fingers. But I really like the detail on these things. So yeah, this is really, really cool figure. You've kind of noticed the articulation a little bit probably as I've been spinning him around there, but you can see his knees, ball jointed legs there, spins at the waist, the head, Got a good ball joint on there. And the arms, good range of movement. The elbows, the wrists. This wrist here is really gross. I'm just noticing that with the exposed bone. That's really cool. I like that a lot. The colors on this guy really pop. He's very bright. He's fun to look at. And even that, I don't think I even mentioned that he's got a frog crawling up his leg. There's just so much stuff to see on this guy. And he's big. I don't have Bebop and Rocksteady in front of me right now to compare, but those were pretty big figures. I think this guy would give them a run for their money. I don't know if he's quite as tall as them, but he definitely feels as bulky and as heavy. And if I bring up some of the other characters I have here for size comparison. So Mutagen Man is a big character, but Muckman is larger than him. Bring out Donnie, and then we'll bring out Gecko. Having a little trouble getting Gecko to stand properly, but anyway, so you can see the size difference in these characters. They're really cool. Yeah, I think Muckman is probably already a contender for me for Toy of the Year for 2022. I don't think he'd be my top of my list, partly because I don't have the same love for this character that I have for Mutagen Man. But it is just a really great looking toy as far as paint, sculpting, size, value. Just, he's interesting to look at. Like, it's going to be pretty tough to knock this guy out of the top 20 for next year because, yeah, this is a really, really solid figure. Lots of great little fun accessories. And so, yeah, there you go. That is Muckman and Joe Eyeball. Okay, so those were my latest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Ultimates figures from Super 7. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button and leave me comments below. Much appreciated. So stay tuned. I'll be back with another video very soon. And until then, have a good one. Ciao.